but it looks like we just need to kill some time until February 24th. It's WrestleMania time, it's the busiest time of the year, but really with what's been going on in the WWE lately, nothing really is going to get cooking until that Raw after the Elimination Chamber. And recently, even with all the CM Punk drama going on, it hasn't seemed like there's been a whole lot to talk about, and unlike last week, I actually think this week's commentary, I've found enough material that we can discuss that's actually important, because last week I hated last week's commentary. I felt like all I did was ramble, and it didn't seem like I talked about anything of importance other than me just bitching about the WWE for what I consider to be bad booking decisions, leading into what's supposed to be their biggest show in the company's history. But we're going to talk a lot about WrestleMania and Elimination Chamber and everything else here in a little bit. Before we even get started, I just want to give you guys a little channel announcement. I put this up on Facebook. I do have a second channel. The purpose of the second channel at one time was to be a backup channel in case something happened to my main channel. But now that it's been 4 years and I fully understand YouTube's rules and guidelines, I'm not going to have any sort of copyright problems or anything like that, so I figured I might make use out of this second channel and actually upload things on there. I have used that channel a little bit in the past, and I do have that great Bret Hart documentary that's up there right now. But the idea that I came up with was to just upload small 1.5 minute to 5 minute long clips of me talking about things from past commentaries. I decided that I'll randomly go through a few commentaries here and there. If I hear something, a little small excerpt that I think is intelligent sounding or is a good representation of what my channel is about, then I'll just cut that small little clip out and post it in a separate video up on my second channel. And the whole purpose of this is just to get more videos out there in the feed for people to potentially stumble across. No fancy intros or outros or videos, just a banner with what I'm talking about and a link to my main channel and the video that the clip came from. And I'm not really expecting to get thousands of views out of these things. These are just little good mic work samples that if I get enough of them out there, they will be in the feed, they will show up in people's feed, they might click on it, hear what I have to say, like what I have to say, and then I've gained a subscriber. So that's the whole point of the good mic work clips. These are basically just little good mic work advertisements, and I plan on uploading a lot of them. I think I have about 14 or 15 videos on there right now. I made the playlist available on my main page, so if you're a subscriber to this channel, you can find all those videos on this channel without having to subscribe to my second channel, but I would appreciate it if you subscribe to both. On to Raw. February 10th edition of Monday Night Raw. We saw a lot of stuff on this show, but not a lot of earth-shattering stuff on the show. How great was it, by the way, to see Betty White? I'm never a fan, and I'm sure none of you are either, of when the WWE has these stupid guest hosts, and they have these stupid cheesy segments and all of that, but this gets a pass because it's Betty White, and Betty White is fucking awesome, and it was great to see her out there. I'm a huge fan of hers. I'm a Betty White mark. One of my favorite things she ever did was when she hosted SNL a couple of years ago, and all the female cast members came back. That was one of my favorite, television moments, and I'm a huge Saturday Night Live fan. I actually had people over that night just to watch that episode, and it's probably one of my top 5 favorite SNL episodes ever. But having her on Raw was kind of cute. She really didn't get in the way, and what the fuck, I kind of walked into this segment a little bit late, so I didn't quite see what was going on, but it appeared as if the New Age Outlaws were trying to fucking poison her or roofie her or something like that. Of course, she's onto them. They walk away. She swaps out the cups of tea, and the Outlaws then drink the tea, and then when they're out doing commentary for a tag team match, Billy Gunn starts getting the fucking shits, and he's about to make a mess out of his pretty pink Mr. Ass trunks, and he's running to the back holding his hand over his ass. So it's just stupid poopy humor that the WWE does sometimes, but like I said, it's Betty White, so it gets a pass. But still, since I kind of missed the beginning of the segment, I don't understand why they were trying to make Betty White shit her pants. She's 90 years old. She's probably already wearing a diaper. Why would they do that to her? I don't understand it. Or they were trying to roofie her and fuck her. I don't know. But hey, if anybody's going to be fucking Betty White, it's going to be Mark Henry, because he also returned on Raw, and I thought it would have been great if Sexual Chocolate would have impregnated a second 90-year-old woman. That would be fucking legendary. But Mark Henry didn't do that. He just came out to challenge Dean Ambrose for the U.S. title, and how pissed was I? I was actually hoping that Mark Henry would beat Dean Ambrose. This would be a great idea if they were to use the Wyatts. Don't get me wrong, I love the segment. By the way, I guess we're just going to jump right into the Wyatts and Shield here since I started talking about Mark Henry. The segment was awesome. Those guys didn't even have to throw one punch or have one single bit of physical contact for the entire Staples Center to be marking out for it. This is one of the best matchups, one of the best clashes of two dominant factions that we've ever had in the wrestling business. I loved the segment on Raw. I'm sure next week we'll probably see a similar segment involving the Wyatts where they're going to be in the ring and the Shield is going to be the one to hit the ring and have a stare down with them. So they'll probably do this a couple of times, and I hope they don't even touch each other until Elimination Chamber. But I was actually still a little bit disappointed because during the match, I actually had an idea. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if the Wyatts somehow, cost Dean Ambrose the U.S. title to Mark Henry? I know Mark Henry is more of a world title contender, but let's face it, he's not going to be a world title contender right now, and if he's just returning to Raw and they want to bring him back with some meaning, have him defeat Dean Ambrose. Hey, Ambrose is ripe. The Shield is going to be breaking up. They got their own problems right now. The U.S. title seems like it's almost in the way. Dean Ambrose is really not a singles wrestler. He is part of a faction. He's held the title for a long time, so have the Wyatts help cost him the title. Mark Henry then wins the title. And then we've all heard the rumors of the possibility of unifying the U.S. title and Intercontinental title, which I am highly in favor of. And I thought that those two guys, Mark Henry and Big E Langston, could have a unification match together. How cool. Pupil versus teacher, and save it for WrestleMania. Don't have the match until WrestleMania. Have the tag titles defended on the show and have the Intercontinental title and U.S. title unified on the show. And I think that could be a great match, and it would give something meaningful for both guys to do, Mark Henry and Big E Langston, and Mark Henry could put Big E over. The WWE likes Big E. The fans like Big E. I think this could be a great way to help launch him. This is something, looking back on his career 10 years from now, he could say, you know what, that night at WrestleMania 30 when Mark Henry put me over is one of the reasons why I'm the man and superstar that I am today. I think that could be a great moment for the future for somebody like Big E. Mark Henry, I'm sure, would be happy to do it. And on top of that, it would even be a nice nod to the African-American wrestlers, for two of them to be involved in such a meaningful match like this. I know the Intercontinental and U.S. title has really lost its value, in the last 20 years, but still, the history of the two titles and those two titles merging is still a pretty big deal in the history of the business. When Jimmy Snuka was diving off the top of the cage onto Intercontinental champion Don Morocco, in NWA, you had Greg the Hammer Valentine and Roddy Piper having dog collar matches for essentially the same title. The U.S. title and the Intercontinental title, have paralleled each other, throughout wrestling's history. But it looks like that Mark Henry Big E idea won't be happening because Dean Ambrose won by disqualification or lost by disqualification or something like that, and now I don't even know what they're going to do with Mark Henry. I intended to talk about the main event first, so let's fast forward to that. The main event was John Cena versus Randy Orton. I actually didn't mind this main event. It was okay. I thought it was stupid for people to complain about this because what the WWE has said they're going to do with Randy Orton is that he is going to have to face every one of his opponents in the Elimination Chamber leading up to the Chamber. So sooner or later, he's going to have to wrestle John Cena. And I think for what appears to be a pretty meaningless Raw, we're just trying to get till the 24th to when the real road to WrestleMania really kicks off. For a meaningless Raw, but was also in LA, I think this was the proper main event to have. And on top of that, you kind of knew John Cena was going to win because I think the way this booking is going to go, I think Randy Orton might lose all these matches or come close to losing them all going into the Elimination Chamber, and he's going to have no momentum. But he's still going to wind up squeaking out a victory in the Chamber anyway. That's the way I see it going. But I gotta say, hold your breath. Don't freak out. The match wasn't that horrible. I think if you were completely blinded to the fact of who those two guys were, and it was just Joe Smith versus Mike Jones in there, and they had the exact same match, fans would probably say it was a good match. But because it's Randy Orton, but because it's John Cena, and because John Cena got the 3 count, the match automatically sucked and it was the worst Raw they've ever seen. So no big deal. You're always going to hear that kind of complaining anytime those two guys get in the ring, and I don't fucking give a shit. But they had to wrestle, and it was a good Raw for them to wrestle on, and I have no problem with it at all. And I think it was almost WWE's way of reminding the fans that, hey, John Cena's still here. Think about this. When have we ever seen a John Cena match, a John Cena title match, where John Cena is really not a factor? I mean, do any of us expect him to win the Elimination Chamber? I don't. Now, I know you can never count out Super Cena. There's no way of counting him out, but I don't know if the WWE is just going to have him randomly win the title, a month before WrestleMania, and then it's going to be Cena and Batista. So no, I actually don't see that happening at all. So I think going into the Elimination Chamber in 2 weeks, the pay-per-view, a title match, John Cena is actually not favored, and he's really not on that many fans' minds. So in my eyes, Cena's actually a minor player. He got a big win on Raw against the World Heavyweight Champion, but that's not going to mean anything. He's going to wind up losing the Elimination Chamber, probably go on to WrestleMania to face Bray Wyatt, at least that's the plans we hear about. As fucked up as everything is right now, I actually expect that plans could change, but I think that's the direction they're going with John Cena. I don't see how he could possibly make it into the main event, like I said, unless he won the title of the Elimination Chamber, and I just don't see that happening. So like I said last week, John Cena, he's the least of our problems right now, and he broke another milestone. He granted the 400th Make-A-Wish, Jesus. So good for him. He's still doing his thing. He might be on TV here or there. He might win a match or two, but hey, at least he's not main eventing for the WWE title, so shut the fuck up. Although I suppose you can never really count out the possibility of that fatal four-way match involving Brock, Batista, Orton, and Cena. A lot of you may not agree with me, but if there's one scenario that does not involve Daniel Bryan that I could accept, that would be the one match that would probably do it for me. A lot of people might not want to see that match, but I actually kind of do. Speaking of the guy that is going to be main eventing for the title, Batista, he had a little segment on Raw with Alberto Del Rio. Now they've announced the match for Elimination Chamber, so Del Rio has basically just been put in front of Batista for him to squash. The fucking guy hasn't even had a match yet. I mean, I know he's had a couple dark matches. He might have worked a house show, but we haven't seen him wrestle on TV since the Royal Rumble, and that's not even a match. He's yet to wrestle on Raw. Now he's going to be facing Del Rio at the Elimination Chamber. I wonder who's going to win that match. How many of you have Del Rio? Batista also beat the shit out of Del Rio pretty good on Raw. I think the WWE is really trying to mask these CM Punk chants as best they can. Batista still on Raw, still the LA crowd who's got other things on their mind other than just sabotaging the show. Even they were booing Batista a little bit. And the fucking guy is just not over as a babyface. You have to wonder, what is the WWE going to do? What the fuck are they going to do at WrestleMania? They can't go through with this. I'm almost laughing. To me, this is almost funny. If they try to put Batista in the main event with Randy Orton, with Batista being the babyface and him pinning Randy Orton and winning the title to close out the show, I mean, Jesus, they're just asking for a fucking riot. There is no way that's going to work. Something has got to change. Something has got to give. You either have to change the main event and insert Daniel Bryan into it, or you flat out have to turn Batista heel. Because think about it. If the WWE is faced with the situation they're faced with right now with Batista, wouldn't you think that one of the best, most brilliant things they could ever do at WrestleMania is just have some sort of huge swerve, major heel turn, or something else that we didn't see coming? Maybe Daniel Bryan is inserted in the main event somehow, and then maybe Batista goes heel with help of Triple H and he was in on it all along, or something like that. There's a million different swerves and scenarios they could do, but I would love it if they would just use the main event in some big way. Like I mentioned last year, this is where you do the John Cena heel turn. This is perfect. This is a New York crowd. It's the biggest show of the year. It's arguably the biggest superstar in the history of wrestling that John Cena is facing. This is when you do it, but they're never going to use WrestleMania in that way. Everything has to be clean and pretty and perfect, and nothing can ever be surprising. And it's just, as much as I love WrestleMania and appreciate WrestleMania, and I'm still to this day amazed how big it has actually become, we're never going to see the big time swerve storylines or pipe bombs or anything like that ever take place at WrestleMania, and definitely not take place in the main event. Which is why, in a weird way, I almost think that the WWE is willing to have the fans sabotage WrestleMania. They didn't give a shit last year. They had to have known going in that if they went with that finish of John Cena beating The Rock and the two guys shook hands and hugged, that the fans are not going to like that. They should have known that going in, and they probably did. They were probably just willing to go with it. Fuck it, we'll edit out the boos and the DVD or anything like that. This is the storyline that we wanted. This is what we wanted for our main show, and we weren't going to fucking change our mind. I'm hoping that they will not be this stubborn with Batista. I don't think it matters what city they go to, anywhere in the country, the fans are not going to be into Batista being the top babyface, being the guy getting the main event, getting the title shot against Randy Orton, when Daniel Bryan, the guy that everybody else wants to see, is sitting right there doing nothing. I don't think the fans are going to accept that. And if the WWE does not change that in some way, and they don't change the main event, and they go with that, that is going to prove to me that they honestly do not give a shit about the fans when it comes to WrestleMania. They are going to do what they want to do, and they are going to present the product that they want to present no matter what the fucking fans say. WWE has a chance to make some serious history with Daniel Bryan. He's over as a motherfucker. Do something with him. Fuck your plans, throw him in the goddamn trash can, and make use of him. The fans want him. Do something about it, you idiots. Speaking of Daniel Bryan, he's not yet in the main event of WrestleMania, and I actually don't see him winning the Elimination Chamber either. And right now it looks like he is taking over for CM Punk in his little feud with Kane. And of course, Raw opened with Triple H and Stephanie coming out and Daniel Bryan interrupting them. And again, he's got another fucking GOAT t-shirt on. Would it kill the WWE to, put some effort into his fucking t-shirts? I swear, if you made a cool t-shirt of some kind of Daniel Bryan, people would buy it. Wasn't he the fucking Dragon or something, or American Dragon in the Independence, and now he's the GOAT? Come on. You let CM Punk use his old theme music, why don't you let Daniel Bryan use his old nickname? Fucking assholes. But he comes out there and, of course, confronts Triple H, and they have a little, conversation, and he's going to wind up, asking for a match with Kane, but the Authority gives him the night off. No, you're not going to wrestle tonight. And then he ends up coming out and having a brawl with Kane later on anyway. Kane comes out and cuts a promo and says he's been put on administrative leave. Well, if you're on leave from work, why the fuck are you at work in the ring cutting a promo? Daniel Bryan then hits the ring and has a big brawl with his former tag team championship partner, and it looks like they're setting up a match between these two. I wouldn't be surprised if this match took place on that February 24th Raw. If Kane has something to do with Daniel Bryan not winning the Elimination Chamber, I don't know how he could. I mean, it's a chamber. Kane would actually have to get in there somehow to somehow cost Daniel Bryan the match or whatever, but I almost see Kane and Daniel Bryan having a match at February 24th's Raw. So as mad as I am at the WWE and how badly I think they fucked up the Royal Rumble and been fucking up basically everything they've been doing so far this year, I think there's a chance for a turnaround. Elimination Chamber is going to tell a lot. The WWE Network is going to launch. They've got a huge Raw plan for the 24th and then 4 or 5 weeks of build going into WrestleMania, and a lot could change. So as mad as I was last week and as mad as I currently still am, I think in the long run, and by the time we get through the month of April, we should be satisfied as far as where the storylines have gone. Now, I know I'm skipping around here a lot, but what else did we see on Raw? The Miz came out again and cut a promo. I didn't mention this last week, but he cut really just a small promo, basically like a little miniature pipe bomb, although his is more like, I don't know, like a water bomb. He walks right out to the ring during a match, gets on the headset, and just makes some sort of sarcastic comment, and then throws the headset down and walks away. So basically, it looks like they're making a storyline of some of the talent being frustrated. I think Dolph Ziggler, some of you mentioned, could also be involved in this. He cut a backstage promo, last week on Raw about his frustration. He lost to Alberto Del Rio on Monday night. There's been a rumor that they might even be teaming up, form a tag team. I think that could be a great tag team. Those two guys would actually almost remind me of an old school tag team like Midnight Express or the Hollywood Blondes or something like that. I think they could do some sort of a gimmick like that and resurrect maybe an old tag team style that was done, many times on a regional level. Modernize it a little bit and bring it into today's wrestling. And I think since the WWE is really focusing on the tag team division, that could make good use of these guys that, used to be world champions and now they're jobbing out. So while the WWE writing team is basically just jacking off at the expense of the Miz and Dolph Ziggler's career, why don't they, in the meantime, while they can't think of anything else to do with those guys, team them up and let them run as a tag team for a while? They could get over. They could be successful. I mean, look at what they did with the Real Americans. Antonio Cesaro is an awesome wrestler, one of my favorite fucking wrestlers on the roster. I'm so happy that they put him into the Elimination Chamber. But what was he doing before he teamed up with Jack Swagger? Nothing. I think he was the U.S. champion once, but really he wasn't doing anything of significance, and the WWE was not making use of this great talent that is more than capable of main eventing a WrestleMania one day. So they couldn't think of anything to do with him. They put him with Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter, the Real Americans, give them something to do while they figure something out, and now they're ready to resplit the guys back up and separate them again. And, they're going with the angle that Swagger is losing his matches, but Cesaro is winning his, and there's jealousy and tension and dissension, and these guys are obviously going to wind up splitting, and I think this is great if it means a push for Antonio Cesaro. If they split them up and neither guy does anything, then fuck it. Because Cesaro is fucking awesome, and why the hell is that flying uppercut not his finisher? Doesn't he do that, like, inverted pile driver type move as his finisher? I think that fucking uppercut is awesome and should be his finisher. It reminds me of the super kick, just a quick high-impact move that knocks your fucking lights out. It's quick, it's sudden, it can be hit from out of nowhere, and that should be his finisher. Same goes with Roman Reigns. I know every big guy, if you're big, you are required to do the fucking spear. I don't know what it is about the WWE and their obsession with that move, but every fucking wrestler that's large and muscular has to do the spear. And just like Antonio Cesaro's uppercut, I think Roman Reigns' Superman punch is fucking killer. Why is that not his finisher? But I'll tell you, man, Reigns and Cesaro, if there's one wish that Good Mic Work has for 2014, that is by the end of 2014, I want these two guys to be major players. But I think my original point of all this was the possible storyline they might be doing with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler and possibly some other talent that might be quote-unquote disgruntled, which is a little bit bittersweet to me. I'm still old school, and it still really makes me cringe when the WWE just openly and publicly admits that their shit is a staged, fake fucking show. The disgruntled talent is going to come out there now and cut promos and say, hey, all those matches I lost? I really didn't lose them. The WWE told me to lose them. But either way, it translates in something for these guys to do. And if Dolph Ziggler, is, I'd much rather have him doing this than losing every goddamn week on Raw. Let's see what else. Have you guys seen this fucking Alexander Rusev guy? I didn't even know who the hell he was. I saw him come out in the Royal Rumble. I laughed at the promo they did on Raw because it reminded me of Tenzai, and it reminded me of the WWE saying, okay, Tenzai was a flop. How can we make Tenzai sexy? They seem to be using this guy in the same way they used a Tenzai or a Vladimir Kozlov when he first came in. The guy doesn't seem like he has a whole lot of charisma. He's just going to be the strong, silent, Russian monster, I guess. It also reminds me a little bit of Rocky IV, where Dolph Lundgren had his wife, his Russian wife, with him, and she did a lot of speaking for him, and he just didn't say much, man, a few words. He just went out there and kicked ass. So it seems like a little play off on that, but to me it reminds me of the Tenzai situation, them just trying to make it a little bit better this time. And shit, have I really been talking this long and I have not yet mentioned Lita? Congratulations, Lita. This was the other big news on Raw. The next Hall of Fame inductee was announced, and we all had a feeling she might be in the very near future, and she's more than deserving, and I'm thrilled for her. She came from my part of the country, and I watched her in the Hardys, come through the business and grow up, and just incredibly proud of her and how far she made it. And she was a great diva, and you know how I feel about divas wrestling. I am never a fan, but if I had to pick two favorites, in the entire history of women's wrestling, I think the two girls that impressed me the most were Trish Stratus and Lita. They were just amazing for their time, and they actually brought a little bit of respect to the women's wrestling. I'm a big Moolah fan, I'm a big Sherry fan, in the older days of women's wrestling, but still, none of those ladies could do anything anywhere close to what Trish and Lita were doing. So Trish and Lita are just two big, beautiful diamonds shoved right into a big pile of horse shit. And it's really hard for me to respect a diva, but I respect the hell out of Lita, and I absolutely loved her, and she's awesome, and she's cool, and she's down to earth, and she was just a hot, athletic, punk rock chick, and I fucking loved her. Really interested to know who's going to induct her. I mean, a lot of people think that automatically Trish Stratus should be the one to induct her, but Lita didn't induct Trish, so I don't know why Trish would induct Lita. I'd be fine with Trish doing it. She was at the Hall of Fame last year. I'd love to see how she's doing, how she looks. She had a baby this year, and Lita was one of her best opponents ever, so it would definitely work for me if Trish was the one to induct Lita, but I almost wonder if it should be somebody like Edge. I know Edge is now recently a father. I don't know if he's married to Beth Phoenix or they're together. I don't know if everything would be cool with Beth if he were to induct the girl that he openly, had a relationship with, and he had sex with her right there on Raw in a bed. So as long as everybody's personal feelings were okay with Edge doing that, I think Edge would be a really good person to induct Lita. But who knows? I don't know if the WWE would even want to bring that up. I mean, after all, this is the PG era, so I don't know who's going to induct her. I don't even care. Lita's going into the Hall of Fame, and that's the only thing that matters to me, and I'm really happy for her, and it's looking to be a good class so far. Who do we have? Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Lita. I'm expecting, I think we all are, Paul Bearer to also be inducted soon, and it would be interesting because if he is, you would have to think Undertaker would have to do the induction, and I don't think we've ever even seen the Undertaker during a Hall of Fame ceremony. He still stays in character. He still stays out of the way. He's not visible. They don't have the camera on him every fucking second, and you really just never see him sitting out there at all. So that would be cool to have the Undertaker on the Hall of Fame for the first time ever, actually inducting somebody. As far as who else is going to go in, I don't know. At this point, it's probably a crapshoot, but I've got a couple of ideas. Since they're inducting Jake Roberts, his two fucking roommates are Hall of Famers in my mind too. I would love for them just to bring all three of those guys in. Why not DDP and Scott Hall? I know we've heard rumors of possibly an NWO induction or whatever. I suppose that could still happen. And actually, I think if you're going to put Scott Hall in, Kevin Nash should actually go in before Scott Hall because Kevin Nash has, won all the world titles. But then again, I don't know, maybe Nash would have to be a headliner in a future year or something like that. So, I would love to see Kevin Nash come in, but I would also love to see DDP and Scott Hall come in. And if they did that, I think that would be a nice balance. You've got the one big super mega WWE icon headlining the show. You got a diva going in. You got a manager going in. You could have a WCW wrestler going in. You could have a guy that made history with the Intercontinental title going in Scott Hall. And you could have one of the greatest characters, promo cutters, and stars of the 80s of all time also going in. I think it would be a really nice balance if that turned out to be the class. But I'm sure for WrestleMania 30, whoever the future names are, the 2 or 3 more that we're going to get, I'm sure are more than worthy of going in, and I'm sure I'm going to be happy no matter who they announce, because the Hall of Fame, to me, is starting to finally be legitimate, and I'm definitely taking it a lot more seriously than I did 10 years ago. So I'm excited to see who's going in next, and I'm excited for what we have so far. All right, I'm just looking at my other tidbits of news that I have. Raw was in L.A. Apparently, Shelton Benjamin worked a dark match. From what I'm hearing from a lot of you, it's been reported on the sites. There's some pictures of it. Awesome. I would love Shelton Benjamin to come back in. What the fuck has taken the WWE so long in bringing this guy back, and why the hell did they release him to begin with? So if this was some sort of a tryout for Shelton Benjamin, I don't understand why the guy has to try out. He's been in the WWE before. He was there many years. The WWE knows what he's capable of. What do they have to do? Sit there and watch one of his matches and say, I wonder if we can use this guy some way. Fuck yeah, you can. Bring him the fuck back in. Give him a goddamn contract. He's awesome. Stone Cold was apparently backstage at the show too. He went there to interview Zeb Coulter for his podcast. Stone Cold's podcast is fucking great. I I've listened to a little bit of Jericho's too, but Stone Cold's is really good, and I think he's found his fucking new calling in his retirement years because he is great at this. I would much rather just hear Stone Cold talk for a couple hours a week about pro wrestling and the past than him ever wrestling another match again. He's fucking amazing, and I love his show, and I cannot wait to hear the interview with Dutch Mantell because Dutch Mantell is one of my favorite people in the business and one of the smartest people in the business. And fuck the Zeb Coulter gimmick, make this guy your head writer. Apparently RVD was also backstage. Now he didn't appear on the show, but I'm guessing he was probably there to work out his return date with the WWE. I'm sure we're going to see him back. Seems like he's got one of these deals where he's coming in a couple of months at a time, and I think it's almost time for him to return, so I'm sure he was there to do a little bit of business with the WWE and visit with friends, and I'm really hoping we see RVD back in the ring here in the near future. Also, as far as the crowd goes and the hijacking of shows that we've been seeing lately, the CM Punk chants didn't seem that bad to me. I mean, they were definitely going on, but the LA crowd, they got like short attention spans, and I think they're different than New York crowd. They're a lot less angry, and there's a lot of celebrities in the audience, and there's a lot of other things. It's just an LA crowd, LA atmosphere, and I don't think the fans in that particular arena are that consumed with destroying the show and sabotaging it any way that they can. So even though you heard a lot of CM Punk and you heard a lot of Daniel Bryan, it wasn't distracting enough to where it ruined the show like it was maybe the week before or even the week before that. I did see the YouTube video of the off-air footage of Cole and Lawler and JBL making fun of the crowd for chanting CM Punk. Who cares? What were they supposed to say? And I actually haven't really talked about CM Punk much in this commentary. He's still gone. He's still decided to leave. He hasn't said a word, and I still completely stand on where I was a couple of weeks ago when the story first broke. I can see how some people in wrestling, fans and his peers, can be completely understanding of why CM Punk did what he did, and I can also understand the argument that he's being a fucking bitch and he's going home and what the hell is his problem. He's top 3 to 5 wrestlers in the company. He's got 90 items on WWEshopzone.com. He's probably making $1.5 million to $2 million a year. He's got his own goddamn private bus. He's fucking divas. What the fuck is this guy's problem? I believe some of the rumors. I don't believe all of the rumors. I definitely think he walked out because he was frustrated. Maybe he even walked out because of his match with Triple H at WrestleMania, but still, that's a lot of money. He might have been walking out in protest of his friend Daniel Bryan. Some people are saying that he's jealous of Daniel Bryan. I don't think that's it. I don't think CM Punk is... He obviously is not that protective of his spot because he's willing to fucking walk out. I don't think he's threatened by Daniel Bryan. Now, I might believe that if Daniel Bryan won the Royal Rumble, if Daniel Bryan was the 30th entrant, he came in there, won the Royal Rumble, he's getting the main event match at WrestleMania 30, and then CM Punk still walks out, then yeah, that might mean that CM Punk is jealous of Daniel Bryan and he wants that spot. I actually think one of the reasons CM Punk walked out was in protest of WWE's mismanaging of Daniel Bryan. And that's the side of me that respects and admires CM Punk for not letting the WWE control his fucking life and not letting them piss in his mouth anytime they want. Fuck you, I'm out of here. But at the same time, that's a lot of money you're walking away from. The WWE, even though it's frustrating with their creative direction of your character and some of the other things they're doing, they're still treating you pretty fucking well. So when and if CM Punk returns, whether it's a year from now, months from now, whatever, he's going to have some fences to mend. He's going to have some wrestlers that are going to, appreciate what he did, and he's going to have some wrestlers that are not going to be happy with him for what he did. So part of me actually worries that CM Punk walking out might have brought on problems that he actually doesn't need. But at the end of the day, it still sucks, because what sucks most of all about this whole thing is that it's WrestleMania 30 time, and we're not going to have CM Punk. I will catch you guys next week after Raw. Take care. Peace.